Let's just see if this works. Oh. Technical difficulties. Okay. Carpets. The place where I find my roots is very famous for its carpets. It's famous for insurgency and picturesque vistas. It's famous for its towering mountains and the chilling secrets its valleys hold. But it's also famous for carpets. Each carpet is an ode, is a weaver's ode to the fine wool with which that carpet is made. But I'm not here to sell you carpets, am I? As you might have deduced from that introduction, I come from a place called Kashmir, the valley of Kashmir, nestled in the Himalayas. Next slide, please. Whoa. Nestled in the Himalayas, and I don't mean to brag here, but I can clearly see why a lot of people have called this place paradise on earth. But my story today is about a paradise lost. Because I belong to a small group of people known as the Kashmiri Pandits, the Hindus of Kashmir. For centuries, my people created a society where Kashmir was a center of knowledge and innovation on the Indian subcontinent. Its scholars were known throughout the region. Its Sharda Peeth was not only a temple revered for divinity, but a center of learning, revered for its hundreds of thousands of manuscripts. It gave birth to philosophers and theologians like Abhinav Gupta, who 800 years ago created a philosophy which said that God was not to be found by those mystics and sages, but God was to be found by anyone regardless of caste, creed, or background. That was the Kashmir which was made by my forefathers. And then the invasions came, and invaders came to Kashmir too. But our community still survived. That was until a man so vicious came to power that he had the sobriquet Butt Shikar, vanquisher of idols, vanquisher of idolaters like me. He desecrated, defiled, and destroyed the greatest temples of Kashmiri Pandits. He forced thousands of us to convert and to lose our faith. A popular phrase in Kashmiri said that by the end of his reign, there was only 11 Pandit families left in the valley. 11. But we survived. We suffered, but we survived. So many of us were massacred that in the Dal Lake in Srinagar, a mound of our sacred threads formed an island, according to legend. But still, we survived. Our knowledge facilitated our survival. Our command of the Persian language endeared us to generations of rulers. After all, even if they wanted to vanquish us, they couldn't help but recognize the fact that we were integral to the functioning and the administration of their empires. My own surname, Ganju, which means of the treasury in Kashmiri, is a testament to that. It is a testament to the survival of my people. But the most consequential date, the one etched in the collective consciousness of my people, is the 19th of January, 1990. The months preceding that day were horrific. Shootings, bomb blasts were quotidian in the valley. The idyll had given way to an omnipresent violence. A poet, a politician, a radio director, they were all killed. For what cause? For what crime? Being a Pandit. Being a Pandit had become a crime in the Kashmir Valley. And the collective sentence against my people was executed on the 19th of January, 1990. In the small, narrow lanes that characterize the Kashmir Valley, mobs of young men armed with Molotovs and Kalashnikovs rampaged. And through those narrow streets, there bellowed only one slogan: Reliv, Tseliv, Yagerliv. Convert, leave, or die. So my people left. We left for we had no other choice when faced with this most medieval of options. We left with whatever we could take overnight. We left the land of the temples consecrated by our forefathers, the land in which we merrily celebrated our festivals, the land in which we had known so much. We left it in overcrowded buses and in cars, heading to the hot plains of Jammu to be quartered in refugee camps. The cloth tents there, a far cry from the beautiful brick homes of the valley. In a climate so alien that you might not believe this, but many died due to heat stroke and snake bites. The young suffered, the young had to study next to stoves, adults had to find employment, and the old lost everything. The characters they had built up were reduced to dust. Because whatever they had built, the homes they had nurtured, the lives that they had created in Kashmir were lost forever. In the valley, they were somebody. Outside the valley, they were fixtures. They occupied a space, but at the end of the day were being consumed by a void inside. But at the end of the day, you might think, we survived, didn't we? I guess we did survive. I'll admit that we survived. But we developed a latent atrophy. After all, the question of cultural survival is trivial to somebody fending for their next meal. Exile spared us the brutality of physical deaths, but it consigned and condemned us to a fate, a near inevitable fate, of a spiritual death. Because our people were scattered. We were scattered across India, today we're scattered across the world. We have prospered, but this atrophy has manifested. Many of our festivals are perhaps disappearing. Festivals like Ketsamavas, Dunya Mavas, Zietartam. How many people really even know why we celebrate these festivals? Very few. It's easy, however, to assimilate, to pick up new festivals like Karwa Chauth, which we had never really heard of before leaving our valley. Next, we lost our language, our dialect. Our dialect was ancient. The words we use have connections that go back thousands of years. The word Rood, the word for rain in Kashmiri, it comes from the god Rudra, the Vedic god of rain. Our language goes back thousands of years, but as I speak right now, it's dying. It's dying because nobody sees a need for it. If you live outside, why learn the language? It's a beautiful language, a melodic one. Each word oozes a certain sweetness, but it's dying. And maybe on that note, I should introduce myself. I was born in 2006, hundreds of kilometers away from Kashmir in the bustling metropolis of New Delhi, to a Kashmiri family, to two Kashmiri parents who speak in Kashmiri at home, who have cooked great Kashmiri food for me, and in an environment where I knew that I was Kashmiri. But once again, knowledge doesn't translate to keeping my culture alive. Because I knew I was Kashmiri, but I never knew how to speak our language for the longest time. And maybe that's one of my greatest regrets. Because I never really got to know my great-grandmother. God bless her soul. She passed away 10 years ago when I was still 7. And I hadn't really learned any Kashmiri then. I could understand it, but I never took the steps to actually speak the language. She mostly spoke Kashmiri, and well, all I could say in Kashmiri was, "Student catcher, what's there to eat?" Because my main exposure to Kashmiri culture was food. I absolutely love Kashmiri food. Rogan Josh, yakhin. I can go on for ages and ages talking about Kashmiri food, but I don't want to bore you. What I will have to say though is that I regret not learning the language soon enough. But most people, when they move further away from their homeland, seem to lose the culture. Ironically, I seem to understand my culture even more when I came to Singapore. Because for the first time in my life, I was asked this question: where do you come from? Well, I proudly said, I'm a Kashmiri Pandit. very proudly. I'm a Kashmiri Pandit. I am somebody who can speak Kashmiri, who can speak his language. I want to shout out to my parents, they're here in the audience today, for inculcating in me the values to understand why keeping my culture was important, and for taking steps to making me understand why speaking my language is so important to keeping my culture alive. Now, I told you at the start that I'm not going to talk about carpets. I'm not going to sell you a carpet. I was lying. I'm going to sell you a carpet just now. Because this carpet is a metaphor. At the end of the day, this carpet is your culture. Each thread, each piece of fine wool is your roots. Quite literally, roots in this case. And you, each and every single one of you in the audience here, is a weaver. You weave your roots forward. Your forefathers weaved your roots till today, and now you have the chance to weave them forward. Now, I weave because I must. If I stop weaving, if I stop preserving my culture and keeping it alive, my culture dies. My language, my dialect disappears. My rituals, my festivals become recordings. My history becomes a museum piece, and my people become an exhibit. Now, I'm not here to lament about the death of my culture, not at all, because I'm dead set on keeping my culture alive. That is my duty. But for you, you have a choice. Many of you don't have dying cultures, and you could very well think that, why do I have to keep my culture alive? Somebody else can do it. Somebody else can keep weaving. But you must take the initiative to keep your cultures alive. Because it only takes one person to stop weaving along for you to stop this carpet abruptly. Because the next generation may or may not want to understand where they came from. But you'll give them a mammoth task if you do not keep your culture alive. And I think the first criticism that I might get is, well, why should I care about my roots? The past is the past. Get on with it. I'm not asking you to, as William F. Buckley would put it, stand athwart history yelling stop. No, history will run you over in that case. What I am asking you to do, most politely, is to pull your roots into the future, is to keep those traditions alive. Because they don't just add to the rich tapestry of your own identity, but they add to the various identities that live today on this planet. The rich tapestry of cultures. In this age where practically everyone in this room lives away from the countries to which they belong, from their homelands, the job of keeping your cultures alive is imperative. And I'm not just going to leave you with a message, because that's frankly useless. I'm going to give you some tips. My first one is curiosity. Be curious. Ask questions. Ask questions to your parents, your grandparents. I know as people get older, they can get a bit cranky. They can go off on rants. It happens. But you're doing this for a greater good. Tolerate it. That carpet is not going to weave itself. So each of you should go out, ask questions, and learn more about your own cultures. You should learn. You should learn your mother tongue. I cannot stress the importance of knowing your mother tongue, because knowing that language means that at the end of the day, you know the stories which have been told for centuries. You understand the purposes and the meanings of traditions. Without a language, all of that is lost. It is lost forever. And lose your inhibitions. You can be scared of being bad at a language. But you know what? I was once bad at Kashmiri. I lost my inhibitions, started speaking the language, and I don't think I'm half bad now. So lose those inhibitions and learn. And lastly, don't keep this knowledge just to yourself. This isn't some sort of closely guarded secret. Spread it. Spread your culture. Spread the knowledge of your culture. You don't need to wait for a TED Talk to tell the world why your culture matters. Do something simple. Organize a potluck. Keep the recipes of your people alive. Feed other people, feed yourselves, gorge on the food, and keep your culture alive. I think that's an easy win. So I'd take it if I were you. I guess all I'd leave you with at the end is just this. Politics is the reason why I need to weave. My culture is dying because of politics. Your cultures will die because of you. So weave on, folks. Weave on. Keep your roots alive. Keep your stories alive. And keep your people alive. Weave on, and thank you so much.